My name is Pramod K. Nair and I teach at the Department of English at the University of Hyderabad. Welcome to the lessons on posthumanism. And we shall begin with an exploration of the contexts in which this school of thought has emerged, primarily in the last 2 decades of the 20th century, and has since then become more or less an established critical approach, but also for people in art and aesthetics, a necessary mode of tackling contemporary contexts of technology, contemporary contexts of climate change and the Anthropocene. So we shall begin with our first set of contexts, and that's technologies. But before we get to that, I will offer a brief and necessarily reductive perhaps, or simplistic perhaps, definition of posthumanism. Posthumanism is a school of thought and a critical artistic practice which makes a very strong case for not assuming that the human is autonomous, sovereign, coherent, or the center of the universe. This radical decentering of the traditional sovereign, within quotes, and autonomous human is done by arguing and making a case for the fact that the human has always co-evolved, not human evolution as a stand-alone, as a autonomous process, but we have evolved, co-evolved, constituted by, and we have been constitutive of multiple forms of life and machines. By multiple forms of life, we mean non-human life as well. So posthumanism sees the human as entangled with non-human life forms as well as with the non-living. This entanglement, and entanglement is a more or less catch-all phrase now, and a much used, perhaps overused term in critical posthumanism. Entanglement means, for the posthumanist, mutual relational identification. So we don't see the human as autonomous. We say and think and view the human as in a relation with the non-human as well as the non-living. And it is in this relation that we see the human identity emerging. So if you can think very clearly about this, it's an attempt to alter the hierarchy which says there's human and then there's the non-human, there's the living and the non-living. So critical posthumanism tries to demolish the hierarchies of the human and the non-human, the living and the non-living, by showing how all of these are together, entangled together. We co-evolve together, we become together. So this is roughly a definitional statement for what critical posthumanism is. And I will now move on to addressing the first set of contexts in which posthumanism emerges as a way of thinking, as a philosophical position. The late 20th century has seen the rise of many technologies which not only interface with human life, but manage it, alter it, and in the process, they also alter the ecosystems in which we are embedded. Remember what I said, that humans co-evolve with technology, with the non-living, with the machines. And we now have technology that interfaces with the human, by which I mean the human mind and the human body, but in the process also alter and manage, some will say control, our life systems and our ecosystems, which also means that it spills over into managing and controlling and altering other life forms. Think of technologies like, say, artificial intelligence, about which there is much talk lately. Think of advances in life sciences, particularly in the field of genetics, medical genetics and others, and xenotransplantation, organ transplantation. Think of consumer technologies or the neural and cognitive sciences. In each of these areas, we have seen, we have experienced, in fact, we have used technologies that modify our ecosystems. For instance, our sense of place, our experience of place is mediated by the GPS. We follow the map into the place. We experience the place through the map. We experience the place through a system, a device, a software that becomes our interface with the world. Think of new information and digital technologies. What do they offer us? The new information and digital technologies offer us the promise of escaping the material body, which we call the virtual world. We escape the material body into another realm, into another medium, and that virtual medium is real enough for us. Then, in the midst of all this, we are networked as humans because the human and the machine are no longer distinct, we are integrated. We are what the post-humanists are fond of calling assemblages. That is, we are integrated with machines. We are ourselves tracking devices. We, in the use of technologies, also create a data-based, mathematized self where humans are available, are rendered into numbers and metrics. So that's our new information and digital technologies, and all of us are pretty much used to this. They are omniscient now, omnipresent, and they are part of what we can see as the ambient technologies of our lives, where you pass, rather than doorways, you pass through scanners, you interface with the world through your GPS, your purchases are tracked, all of that. Then look at biotechnologies, where, for example, something like cloning blurs the distinction between natural and artificial life. That cloning, and I'm not talking about the technicalities of cloning, please understand that. This is a very commonsensical view of cloning. The scientists may have several other things to add to the technicalities of what the cloning means, but our interest lies somewhere else. That cloning blurs the boundaries between what we think of as natural life and what we think of as, quote, artificial life. Then, of course, there is genetic engineering and xenotransplantation. Xeno means foreign, xenos. Also the root of the xenophobia, the fear of the foreigner. But genetic engineering and transplantation, where the transplanted organ comes from another species, from another body, blurs the distinction between my body and somebody else's body, my organs and somebody else's organs. Think of these hugely influential technologies and what do they do to us. Then think in terms of enhancement technologies. By enhancement technologies, we mean any technology that improves our abilities, our features, our physiological or anatomical characteristics. There are various kinds. There is biological enhancement, which effectively means genetic modifications that will improve the next generation of humans. So the engineering of genetic material will produce humans who may possess, say, better immunity to diseases, whose physiological abilities are much more than ours. They can run faster, they can stand for a longer time, their body muscle mass is better, etc. But it might also mean that the future generation will have better cognitive abilities, intellectual and cognitive abilities. So biological enhancement is the most, shall we say, common and vividly popularized technology of enhancement. Then there is bionic enhancement. By bionic, we mean the replacement of our biological parts, our organs, our flesh and blood, nerves and blood vessels with synthetic parts, which will mean there will be less wear and tear on them. We know that as we age, our bones weaken, our skin changes, our teeth weaken, our gums weaken. Suppose you are able to replace those with bionic, that is synthetic components, their wear and tear is much less and they are replaceable, of course. Finally, there is the virtual enhancement, which is a grand theme for science fiction proceeding from Hans Morowitz's book Mind Children, published in 1983, where you can digitize your memories, you can digitize your personality, and at some future date, you can upload it into robotic substitutes. Which means we are talking immortality, where your bodies will decay, your bodies will die, but your personality and your memories have already been downloaded and they can be uploaded into a robotic substitute for the human. Now, I am not saying that there are no problems with it. Much of this technology is still in the future, particularly the last one, virtual enhancement, because we still don't know a way of uploading our memories into a robot after downloading it from a flesh and blood human. There are problems with it, but there are also ethical questions to be asked, which is, of course, a later and a different debate. Then think of the creation of artificial beings such as robots. And you know now that several robots exist to help with, say, kitchen work or the work done by domestic workers now. They are experimenting with robo nurses, as in the nursing profession will now be done by robots who can take care of the chronically ill, of those people with developmental disorders, those with dementia. And there are several advantages, of course. For example, they are consistent, they are not subject to mood swings, they also have enormous amounts of energy. But that's a different point. The creation of such artificial beings, by which I mean robots, are also disturbing for many because they are very close in appearance and behavior to humans. With artificial intelligence embedded in them, running them, the difference between sentient, that is conscious humans, and the sentient non-human breaks down. So you can't really distinguish between the robo with artificial intelligence functioning like a human, behaving like a human, and the humans. Then, of course, there are the smart devices, right? I mean, all of us live in the age of smartphones. There are now smart cars. Your fridge is smart. The sensors installed in your home cause the air conditioning to be switched on when you walk in. The lights come on when there are footsteps in the aisles of the library, the office, or other places. The device is smart because it learns. And smart cars, smartphones, smart ambient technologies embody a form of intelligence because they calculate, they predict, and they respond to the setting. And artificial intelligence technologies definitely bestow more than human abilities to machines. So the machine seems to be advancing at a much faster rate than the humans are. Finally, the very thorny question of moral bioenhancement. The question is not necessarily that whether we should produce a human who can run faster, who can do math faster. The question is whether we can, and of course whether we ought to, produce humans who are more compassionate, more altruistic, less violent, who can demonstrate a greater amount of empathy towards the world. Is it all right? This is moral bioenhancement, where the question is not of improving the physiological or anatomical possibilities of the human, but to think in terms of enabling, enhancing certain virtues which we think constitute the human and humanity. In short, can we make better humans? Ought we to make better humans? The ought we to do this will, of course, have several dimensions, which we shall come to in the later part of the course. In such a context, enhanced humans, by which I mean humans with necessary prostheses or implants, are posthumans. In the sense, they are attempts to transcend the limitations of the human, especially the biological limitations, which could be from disease, age-related conditions, mortality, or anything else. So, the enhanced humans are a very real possibility, are a very much in the offing possibility, where one day we might be actually encountering humans who not only have better physiological abilities, who can run faster, like I said, do math faster, but who also have other virtues. They are more compassionate, they're more altruistic, they are quote unquote better humans. Would that be possible? Should it be done? Posthumanist thought does not see technology or technological devices as an addition to the pre-existing human. Posthumanist thought sees humans as having always used technology, and the first technological device is the human body. So it's not like first there were the humans, then there was technology. It's not like the humans came first and technology came later. The body itself was a technique, a form of technological device which the humans have learned to manipulate, have learned to use. So we need to start thinking in terms of a different kind of human. Not that the human came first and then the prostheses and the technological devices followed, but one where we start thinking in terms of the human that co-evolve with it. Posthumanist thought argues that humans co-evolve with technology, whether this is fire or contemporary digital devices. And in all our arguments, in all our thought processes, we are looking at the human as a larger networked creature, what is called an assemblage. It's an assemblage with other things. By things, I mean non-living. By it also, I mean the non-human. So we have always co-evolved with it, and we have always made use of it. The made use of it, that question will come later, because we have always had, as the posthumanists will tell us, a very instrumental view of other forms of life. That the other forms of life are here for us to make use of. So think about that. Think about the fact that we now recognize that we co-evolved with other forms of life, with other non-living forms, including machines. That's our first major move in posthumanism. And there are two ways now of thinking about the current technologically mediated person, by which I mean persons whose life systems incorporate into itself the non-human life, devices, and the elements, including earth, air, space, the non-living too. What are the ways in which we can think about such an assemblage? One who is not isolated as a sovereign, coherent, autonomous being, but one whose life systems have got all these other things merged into it. How do we talk about it? Well, there are two, like I said, views, two modes of thinking about it. One, that such connections, such a mutual dependence, such a co-evolution and co-identities are deviations from the human norm. When you have this particular view that connections and mutual dependence and co-evolution are deviations from the human, you presume that there is a pure form of the human. You presume that there is a form of the human which is distinct from the technology it uses, which is, shall we say, an autonomous agent who has created various technologies for its purpose, for its use. I'm intentionally using the word "its" to describe the human. That there is a pure form of the human, and then came technology. So if you think that the connections, the network condition, our co-evolution are deviations, then we are thinking that there is a pure human and all these others are deviations from it. They've moved away from it. But there's another way of thinking about it. Can we think of the connections, the mutual dependence, the co-evolution and co-identities as perhaps reflective of the truer nature of the human? Not as deviation, but as a more accurate picture of the human. If that is the case, then we must rethink the nature of the human. We must rethink how the human has evolved, what the human is, and what the human might become. So if we were to say that these are not deviations, that is how we are formed. It is not that those are extra. Those constitute, by those I mean the machinic, the animal, and the non-living. These are integral to how we have become what we have become. They're integral to what we are. Then we must rethink the nature of the human, because we do not then think of the human as pure, distinct, sovereign. We think of them as co-evolved, participating in, made up of, but also contributing to those machines, those non-living forms, those non-human forms. This is post-humanism. We shall continue with this later.